Hey everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to Advent Member Talks. My name is Sam. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm the Director of Member Experience at Advent Co-working. Advent is a creative co-working community, event space, podcast studio, yoga studio, art gallery, all these good things. Most importantly though, we are a community and we love putting on this weekly event, Advent Member Talks. Each week features a different member on the topic of their choosing. So it's a really cool way for our members to get to skill share, share all their knowledge, not only with fellow members, but also with the greater Charlotte community. And we get to promote our members. So if you've been following us on our Instagram, you'll see that Josie's been doing a takeover. If you haven't been over there, definitely check that out after her member talk. But I'm really excited to be joined again by Josie today. Josie's a life coach, but today she's going to be talking to us about community cats because it's kitten season. So Josie, I will hand it over to you. And for those watching, if you have any questions, go ahead, type those into the comments and we'll have a short Q&A at the end. Josie.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for that introduction. I am so excited to talk to you guys about cats today. I'm going to pull up a Canva PowerPoint slide. Let me pull that up real quick, and then we'll just jump right in. Okay. So it's kitten season and we are dealing with copious community cats. I mean, we're not because we handled our population, but other people are. You're probably going to see kittens pretty soon if you're not already seeing them. So what I'm dealing with today, or what I'm trying to share with you guys today, I just want to find a way to make life a little bit easier for both us, the people who live near the cats, and the community cats themselves. Part of this is decreasing euthanasia, unnecessary euthanasia, and sheltering of cats, of these community cats, and also managing their ecological impact, which is actually kind of a politically dramatic concept because there's a lot of laws and legal issues that come into managing ecological impact. But that's what we're going to be hitting on today. So what I would like to start with today is a little bit of kitty history. Now, this may seem like a silly way to start this because we all know what cats are. So what we are dealing with are called domesticated cats. This is the lay name for the species that we have coexisted with for 10,000 years. The reason that it's important to kind of specify this is because often people use the word domesticated to indicate that a cat is socialized to humans and used to humans, and that's not necessarily the case. And the topic of socialization does become relevant as we look into the issue of population control. So humans make decisions about these cats who, you know, we have coexisted with for quite a long time now that are kind of life or death for those cats. So it's really important to be precise with our language. So again, basically cats were domesticated. Well, they were kind of self-domesticated in the same way that dogs were. About 10,000 years ago, they saw that humans had settled down. We became sedentary. We started relying on agriculture, which means that our trash started to build up. So cats saw humans, saw trash, they saw their meal. And so some of them started hanging out with us. And over time, those evolved into what we consider a domesticated cat. So we saw use in them too, so we allowed this to happen. The use that we saw was the same thing that we see today. We saw companionship and we saw the ability to pursue rodents, which are an issue because, again, our trash is piling up now that we are sedentary. So we benefited each other, very similar to how it happened with dogs. The thing is that we also have taken cats with us everywhere since they were domesticated. That means, you know, they started in the Fertile Crescent and now they are literally everywhere. And that is an issue, which is why we talk about population control. Something relevant here is that they are considered intensive breeders. And being an intensive breeder means that they specifically are able to have up to 3 litters a year from the age of 7 months onward. So with a outdoor cat whose average lifespan is, 7 years maybe, obviously they live longer when they are inside. That's a lot of kittens and a lot of ecological impact that can occur. And it's going to be a different ecological impact everywhere you go, because there are different levels of fragility with different ecosystems. In some places they can devastate different like bird species and things like that. But I am talking about like our neighborhoods here in Charlotte specifically, where their ecological impact probably is mostly on us as humans. We are perhaps a little bit annoyed by them, and that's like the impact there. So I do want to use a little bit of like specific terminology here. We use the word community cats. This is the free range, unowned cats that are in your neighborhood. We consider them to live in colonies. That's the language that we use. This does include stray cats and feral cats. Now, these are words that are kind of used interchangeably sometimes by people who don't know too much about, population control of the domestic cat. But community cats is an umbrella term for the cats that we are coexisting with. They don't have owners. There is a spectrum to which they are socialized to us, how used to us they are, and how much they depend on us for their medical care, but also just their, food. Sometimes we directly feed these community cats, and sometimes they go through our trash. Whatever the case may be, they are there. Now, I do want to specify the difference between a feral cat and a stray cat. The feral cats are what we would consider unsocialized, and the stray cats are actually what we would consider abandoned. So this is a cat whose owners just got up and left. So it's a cat who is used to people and suddenly has to live on the streets, and it may or may not be able to thrive in that scenario. A true feral cat who is unsocialized and has lived its whole life outside is probably going to be able to thrive a little bit better, just because it is used to it. It has had to learn how to hunt, these kinds of things. So this is an example of a feral cat. This is a local feral cat. We call her Mama Cat because she is a cat who lives in our neighborhood, and she will not come with, so we actually have gotten her pretty close to us, but this is how she looks at us if we make a sudden movement. She looks like she's ready to freak out. But we've been feeding her steadily for, I don't know, a year or so. So she'll get within a foot of us, but we cannot touch her. She's not socialized to humans. We have already trapped her and gotten her fixed, so she's no longer having kittens. So she had to learn a little bit of trust that we weren't going to capture her again and send her to the vet again. But yeah, this is what an unsocialized cat is like. A truly unsocialized cat, you're never going to see it. It's going to live in the woods. You're not going to know it exists because it's not going to be comfortable being seen by you. It'll probably do all its hunting at night, that kind of thing. And this is a stray cat, or well, this is what we believe to be a stray cat. This is another local cat that we found in my neighborhood. We call him Mr. Handsome. He came up to us, but he was very, very skinny. We could not find an owner. There was no microchip or collar to indicate ownership. And he at first was very tolerant as long as we were feeding him. Then when he realized we were catching him and taking care of him, taking him to the vet and things like that, he got a little bit more standoffish. He was intact, so he had a lot of those predator vibes. But eventually he did come around to hanging out with us. So we are trying to get him adopted now because, as you can see by the picture, he's very comfortable being near humans. So that is a stray cat. We believe he was probably owned or socialized to humans early on. He was not thriving outside. Since we took him in, he's gained, 5 pounds. He looks healthy, and before he was just a skeleton. So as indicated a little bit by what I said about the stray cat, Mr. Handsome, life can be hard for community cats. There are natural predators that they deal with. That's things like coyotes. I've had pet cats be killed by coyotes before because they were indoor-outdoor cats. So that is like definitely a danger that they are exposed to. And then there are unnatural predators. So that is cars, obviously not technically a predator, just something that exists, but it's very dangerous for cats to be outside. It is a brutal lifestyle. They have to hunt, and they are very, very vulnerable when they are visible. They also have to deal with like kitty politics around mating and territory. So that's when you're hearing the yowling and the fighting, seeing the cats mating. And if you have seen that, that is a loud process. It is not pleasant to be around. And that can be very violent, especially with the territorial fights. If you've ever heard two cats fighting, the yowling sound, like you don't know what is being murdered outside your door, but it turns out it's cats fighting each other. So cats, on the other hand, can also be pests and nuisances to us as well. So it's not just that, oh, they live a hard life out there. They also can be complicated for us. So they're, again, annoying and they're loud. They're everywhere, especially if you've ever been to a neighborhood where there is an uncontrolled cat population, you know how frustrating this can be. They will go through your trash. They are very loud. They're everywhere. And they are, to me, emotionally stressful, because it is stressful to me when I see a cat who has kittens walking down the street, and now I have to worry if that cat's going to get hit or not. So those things are stressful to me. If you are empathetic to cats, it is stressful. As far as being hunters and scavengers, though, it is important to keep in mind that they are being introduced to ecosystems, a wide variety of them. So they are going to be hunting prey, and they are also going to be taking away prey from other native species. So if my cat goes outside and kills a rodent for fun, because he can come back inside and get his dinner whenever he wants it, that's like a bird of prey, like a hawk that did not get that rodent. So that has its ecological impact on all the other animals as well, including other predators. So one of the ways that people have dealt with the populations of community cats is to have them removed. And again, we're talking about population control. So usually when we say removed, we are meaning exterminated, the way you would exterminate rats in your house. So it does involve, either relocating the cats or more likely just putting the cats down. Sometimes people go out and they'll just shoot them. So it's not like pretty, but that is like an option that is there. However, this is not like a great option because there's something called the vacuum effect, which means that this colony of cats has found that this ecological niche is good for them. It has the food that they need. They have the balance that benefits them as a species. And so when they are removed, then another colony of cats is going to make its way over. So that is not going to solve the problem in the long run. You're just going to be killing cats, which is, in my opinion, unnecessarily cruel due to how ineffective it is at accomplishing the goal of population control. And again, that raises ecological questions because they have been introduced to an ecosystem and they are suddenly all like removed. And now what? Now what with the different predators, with the different prey animals? Everything's going to have to, balance out eventually, but it could be disastrous in its own way. Probably not super disastrous locally, but like in other, ecosystems, you have to be careful about that when it comes to legislating what to do with populations of community cats. So here's the answer. TNR is the answer. It's trap, neuter, and release. It is a program which is effective and humane, and it's a great way to manage community cat populations. Here, one second. Essentially, what we're going to be doing in a TNR process is literally what it sounds like. You use a humane trap to catch the cat, and then you take it in to get neutered or spayed. And then you release it back to its same habitat. So that's the trick. You don't want to release it in some random ecosystem that it's not part of. You want to put it back where you found it. And then they get to live their full life, and they eventually do die off. So again, TNR helps because it halts the population growth. There's fewer cats, taking up places in shelters, getting in the way, that kind of thing. They're not over predating on the prey population. Let's see, there's less cat drama, there's less territory issues. Colonies of cats where they've all been fixed have been found to sometimes show more affection than they would have before to each other, not to humans, but to each other. Better health in the long run in terms of cancer rates and things like that. If you're spayed or neutered, you're less likely to develop a number of cancers and diseases. So that's really great. There's less roaming, so there's less fighting, less territory issues. They kind of just get to live a healthy life, and run that healthy life to the end, essentially. And we do have improved relationships with humans because they are no longer having their own drama to bring to us. So that's really great. They're quieter, there's fewer animal control calls, which is always like frustrating to deal with, uses up resources unnecessarily, that kind of thing. Now, another thing that people often bring up is, shouldn't we bring them inside instead of releasing them? And that's when the conversation about socialization comes back up that I was referring to earlier, because some cats are not adoptable, and they will overwhelm shelters. They will essentially just be euthanized immediately. So putting cats outside to live a relatively healthy life is going to be better for their interest than trying to adopt them out to, these are cats who don't want to be near humans. They're terrified of humans. So what they'll do is overwhelm the shelters, use resources to put them down. If you take them to a no-kill shelter, then you've just used up space that an adoptable cat could have used. Someone whose owner had passed away now has one less place to go. They are very cost ineffective for shelters. Cats in general, it's hard to move cats. Mr. Handsome has been with us for several months. He is not, no one really wants a cat because you can get them for free because there's a population control issue. You can just pick up a cat off the side of the road during kitten season. I've done that before, so no judgment. You can get free cats in that way. So who's going to put money into buying a cat from a shelter? And when the population is handled, like I said, they do pretty well outside. They live a relatively healthy life. And then you're no longer dealing with that issue once they all pass away. So what to do with this info? Start getting your physical and social communities on board with TNR. Physical community, that means talk about it in your neighborhood, but also start talking about it with like your social group, whether they live in your neighborhood or not. It's just about normalizing it, making sure people are aware that it is an option, and then start snatching up cats in your neighborhood. Again, get that humane trap and start taking them to animal care and control. It's a little bit different right now because of COVID. Things have been a little bit more difficult to get scheduled. But if the worst case scenario comes where you have a cat that you've trapped and it needs to go tomorrow, Charmec Animal Control, they do have a community cat spay neuter clinic that they do in the mornings. Basically what you'll want to do is just show up and see if somebody was a no-show for their appointment and see if they'll take the cat in. It's kind of an annoying process right now, but again, that's really due to COVID and due to limited resources. So that should start becoming more easy in the future. And literally, if you have questions about that, you can come talk to me or even talk to Sam here. We're happy to help arrange these kinds of things and help you through the process. And also consider keeping your cat indoors. This is my 2 cents. Again, it is a brutal lifestyle out there. Your cat, your indoor pet, like it will be safer in the long run if it does stay inside. It's less, exposed to all of those predators and things like that. It's having less of an impact on the ecosystem around it. And you should probably be playing with your cat anyway. So if you're concerned that your cat's going to get fat or not have exercise or things like that, if you keep it in, it's really easy to play with your cat and find ways to get them active inside the house. And I'd be happy to help you figure out how to do that. Oh, and we're done. Nice. I'm back.
Hey, Josie, that was so good. I I love cats. I think I turned your video off at some point, so let me ask you to start that video again. Get that. Cool.
Hey, there's
There
me.
you are. Hello. Well, thank you so much for all that really great information. Yeah, everyone watching knows I'm also a big cat person, and I'm happy to discuss TNR and ways that you can support the own cats in your community. Mr. Handsome's super cute, so if you're looking to adopt a cat, please do that. And also remember, it's so important to, if you have the resources to adopt older cats and cats that are less likely to get home, kittens are always going to get the homes because they're so cute. So I see we have some questions coming in. So yeah, everyone watching, if you have any questions, go ahead and I will read those to Josie. So first question we have, what happens to a cat if you call animal control? What does animal control do with them?
Well, if they find them, probably what's going to happen is they're going to scan to see if the cat has a chip. So a microchip is how we know if there's no collar, it will have your information on it. And I'm surprised that a lot of people actually don't do this automatically. I do expect it to have been more widespread by now, but if you have a cat and have taken it to the vet and don't have a microchip for it, it's not expensive. Just go ahead and get one. That way it's registered as, you know, you are the contact information on there. So they'll probably check to see if there's a chip. If there is nothing, then they will probably take it in. And if it's not adoptable, like if it's clearly scared, they're probably going to end up putting it down pretty quickly. And cats really do not do well initially in situations like shelter situations, because a scared reaction from a cat is probably the same in both a feral and a stray and a pet. Like those are all going to be very aggressive looking or feel unadoptable. So it's probably not great to call the cops on the cats.
Yeah, and I know too, animal control has, does the work to try to do, have less killing happening in the shelter, but still limited resources. So if you can find alternatives, then that's a lot better.
I will say, if you are missing your cat, if your cat has gone missing, go to the Charlotte Mecklenburg Animal Care and Control website, because it's possible that it was listed as lost. That's true for your dogs, your cats, and your chickens as well. I've seen chickens on there. So if you're missing an animal, go up there. They have them listed. So they're doing their part in that way.
Yeah, and you can also post that your animal has gone missing as well.
Yeah,
we've been able to reconnect a dog to its owner that way. Another question here is it free to get community cats spayed or neutered?
Usually the payment, so the behind the scenes process, to my knowledge, is that occasionally there will be grants that are gotten because it is like a nonprofit situation. You can get grants to pay for a certain amount of spays and neuters. They are low cost. So like if you took a random cat to like a real vet, like the one down the street from us, it's going to be in the hundreds of dollars to get something done that you can get done for, $40 to $60. So I feel like there have in the past been free services, spay and neuter services. Do you remember, Sam?
Yeah, at the animal control. So at that, it is free. What they'll do is, they'll spay neuter. They also put in a microchip in that cat, and it will have your contact information on it. That's just so that the next person who finds it knows that you're the last person the cat had contact with, and assume therefore that you may have some more just knowledge on the cat because animal control won't keep any record of it. But that service is free. I don't know about kind of grants and how that can affect it.
A lot, like different cities are going to have different things available. So different like spay and neuter low cost clinics are going to exist. Humane Society, Stand for Animals, all these different places that are going to have their own grant process. So they'll have funding coming in for different things essentially. So you're going to want to Google, take a look around at what's available at the time. Yeah, okay, so animal control was free. For the last cat we got done, though, I did have to pay $20 for its antibiotics because it had a wound. So that was not, the fixing was free. The additional medical care was a little bit of money, but that's okay.
Yeah. Can you let folks know any like processes? So what if you do see that mama walking down the street with kittens? Is there anything that you can do?
Yeah, you can try to trap them all. We have caught kittens before. It's kind of a tightrope game on this because of wanting to make sure they're old enough to get fixed and be away from their mom, which is kind of difficult to, if you're not used to kittens, to kind of know how old they are. There are resources though. If you go to alleycat.org, they have a lot of different guides on how to tell how old a kitten is, and then they can guide you from there about if it's advisable to pull them all or pull just the kittens. And unfortunately, you're also going to have to play around with the bureaucracy at the whatever place you decide to take the cats to, not to be discouraging or anything. That's why I'm saying that we could definitely help anybody who has questions in this process or needs guidance through the process in real time. Because like there was one place you can only take 2 at a time. And so it's like, what happens if you have a handful of kittens? So there's a lot of like human interaction that has to happen sometimes to get everything taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just dropped that link for alleycat.org into the comments here. But I think it's important to remember too that like you are not alone in this issue. Like as Josie was talking about, this is something that is affecting everyone, especially, you know, in Charlotte, in a city with a pretty large, you know, suburban range here. And, you know, Nextdoor is a great resource. There's Facebook groups for lost animals. So it never hurts to kind of put that ask out there. And, you know, you may have your very own resident cat person in the neighborhood who can support you with that.
Yeah, there's already a cat person in our neighborhood. Like we are not the first ones doing this. There was already someone established on Nextdoor as the cat person. So there's probably people who will help.
Yes. But yeah, feed your cats, local cats. I also encourage folks to keep their cats inside. Try not to be judgy, like no judgment with that or anything. But like Josie was saying, you know, you can give your cats a really enriching life. You know, our cat, Scorpion George, he goes out on walks. He has his own little harness. You know, there are ways for your cats to be outside and be safe with you. So Josie, thank you so much. Yeah, I love cats. It's great. So Josie, if folks want to ask you any more questions about this or just get to know about you and your work, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
So you can contact me on my Instagram. It's at Josie the Life Coach. That's probably the best way to get in contact with me. You can just be like, hey, let's talk cats. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's talk cats.
For sure. And I'll also drop Josie's website into the chat as well as when we post this onto our Advent YouTube channel, Advent Co-working videos, I'll get that up there as well. So thank you again, Josie. And like I said at the beginning, Josie is currently doing a live takeover of our Instagram. So I know that she has some polls up. So if you are interested in taking some polls and things, head over there. And last thing I want to mention is our talk for next week. So this is a weekly event, Advent Member Talks. Each week features a different member on the topic of their choosing. So we actually have Landis Wade coming on next week. He runs the Charlotte Readers podcast, and he's going to be talking about lessons that he's learned from producing and hosting 200 podcast episodes, which is a lot. So I hope that you'll join us next Tuesday as well. And yeah, everyone have a great evening.